welcome into Foxborough Rush. If you love this show, make sure you check out Hold My Banner, available on Nessun as well. Ante Campbell and I get you ready for Banner 19. That's right, we're already raising banners in the garden, baby. Check us out. Hold My Banner can be found on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Amazon, and wherever else you get all your podcasts. Oh, yeah, play my music. What a rush. Foxborough Rush. Travis Thomas here with Kasey Hudson. Kasey, you ready to talk some ball or what?
I think you actually mean play my music. I'm the rockhead in this relationship.
That's a good point.
That is for sure. Tis for sure. Yeah, I'm ready. There's a lot of interesting things for us to get into. And while you and I typically see eye to eye, there's some moments where it'll be an eye for an eye between us today. So
okay. Well, I mean, there's no better tease than that. Let's get it started here with Evan Lazar of Patriots.com. He wrote an article on the top 50 Patriots prospects. Now, I want to go through this with you because I'm going to be honest. Generally in these articles, kudos to my guy Evan Lazar here. Generally in these articles, I'll pick one or two things early on that I'm just like, how did he come to this? What was he thinking here? Honestly, Case, top 10 here, I was on board. It was the first time I remember reading an article and being like, really? I like the whole top 10, even in the order he had it. I'm going to go through them quickly with you. Travis Hunter, 1. Yes. Abdul Carter, 2. Will Campbell, 3. Armand Membu, 4. Ashton Genty, 5. Tyler Warren, 6. Tet McMillan, 7. Mason Graham, 8. Jalen Walker, 9. Kelvin Banks, 10. No issues at all. Any one of those players, well, some of them at 4 could be a reach, but you could trade back and still get them. But honestly, those top 10, I'm all for, especially the top 2, Travis Hunter and Abdul Carter. Most of these articles, most of these mock drafts, which we'll get to later in the program, if you don't have one of those 2 players, and Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter going to the Patriots at 4, I ain't interested. Now, if those guys are off the board when we get to draft night, I would understand maybe trading back or pivoting to a Will Campbell, a Membu, Genty. But I just don't really see any of those guys going at 4. If Hunter and Carter are off the board, Case, let's just see. You say we're always on the same page, but maybe we could disagree here. Let's see if you agree with me here. Okay. Are you going to walk with me on this? If Travis Hunter and Abdul Carter are off of the board, I have zero issues with the Patriots trading back and getting any of these other players. But I don't want any of these other players in that top 10 I just mentioned at number 4 overall, except Travis Hunter and Abdul Carter.
Ooh, I don't know if we see eye to eye on this.
Okay.
Because it comes back to what do I get? I'm running this team. What do I get in return if I don't go for a Will Campbell at that 4 slot because the other 2 dudes are off the board here?
Yep.
What am I getting in return? Because we had a pretty eye-to-eye conversation about if we're going to go for future picks, then it has to be a now situation. I have to have future picks that I can work with this year, this immediate versus thinking that there's anything down the stretch worth working with. We also touched on the fact that this trade portal situation is just changing the trajectory of when guys are ready for the NFL, how many players are actually ready for the NFL. So I don't want to look at future draft picks. I don't want anyone to come to me and say anything about 2026. I want to know what's going down now.
All right. Well, listen, I'm looking at these names now. Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter, obviously are game changers. Mm-hmm. If you can get either one at 4, I'm with it. But I started thinking, as you were talking about this, well, how come I don't want these other guys at 4?
Good point.
Will Campbell and Membu both fill a need, no question, on your offensive line. Mm-hmm. But feels like a reach at number 4 overall. Feels a little too rich. Feels like you could trade back, still get either one of those guys in Campbell or Membu. Now, where do you trade? Is that maybe a Saints at number 9? I mean, there's some options here. Maybe a Raiders at 6. What you need is for a team to fall in love with a Shedeur Sanders or a Jackson Dart, whoever. You need them to fall in love with a quarterback and be wanting to move up to that 4 slot. If you could get that done and move back, still within the top 10 case, I think you could get a Campbell or a Membu. Then I love them. I don't love them at 4. It's too rich. But if you could get them back into the top 10, I'm all for it. I feel the same way, and I know you don't, so let's have this discussion. We can stop down on this one. I feel the same way about Ashton Genty. My whole thing with him is he is a playmaker, much like I said with Travis Hunter and Abdul Carter. But, again, price at 4, I love Ashton Genty.
Nope.
I don't love him that damn much.
Nope.
But if you move back, maybe you can get him. My thought process is he is a game changer. He is a playmaker, and you need him on the offensive side. If you get a Genty, let's call it back into the top 10, just for the sake of convo, you and I.
All right.
And you revamp your offensive line later in this draft, second round, depending what you acquire as well from whoever you trade with. I think your offense can change overnight. And I get people wanting a knockdown, drag out number 1 wide receiver in their prime, i.e. a DK Metcalf or a T. Higgins who you missed out on. I get that, but that didn't happen this offseason. That's not even available in the draft at wideout. So I'm thinking okay, let's give Drake May another option, which is a dynamic run game. I mean, am I crazy to think that, Case?
Not crazy, not far off. But you and I are not on the same page.
You don't like Genty.
This one. It's not for a lack of liking Genty. It's more so the fact that I feel like looking at the scope of this Patriots roster, looking at the coaches, looking at where this team can potentially go, I don't see him as the fit.
Okay.
Because you and I started to touch on this a little bit.
Yeah.
But when I think of McDaniels and the run game and the run scheme and how run heavy this can tend to be, when I think about what Mike Vrabel had a hand in with the run game over with the Tennessee Titans, the only thing that jumps out to me in a big flashing sign is, where is my downhill running back? My real downhill running back. And I don't put Genty in that category, considering some of the other talent in the running back group that it will be coming out in this. And I also start to look and pivot. If we're talking too rich for blood, and it comes to top 10, I'm looking at 2 Ohio State running backs that could be a little bit later in this draft and have more of that 80-20 downhill running back caliber to them that could fit into this system progressively, because you also need those playmakers that don't have the safety net of an offensive line, because we don't know what this line is going to look like after the draft.
Right.
Especially if we start pivoting away from getting an offensive lineman in the first or second round, which I'm kind of hit or miss on this conversation, because I don't know if I'm that old all of a sudden, but getting key linemen in the first round, top 10, used to be the thing. I mean, that was your top 5 reach for the most part. So I kind of stick with the old school fashion of getting that more ready now than then offensive lineman to make a difference, because none of these schemes are going to work if this offensive line continues to be a big freaking question mark for the Patriots.
It's still a thing getting them in the top 10. I think the thing is with it, Case, is that there's no one here that's a knockdown, drag out. You got to take this guy in the top 10, and then you plug and play. And
Campbell doesn't feel like a difference maker.
No, right.
To you.
Most of the guys that go in the top 10, to your point at offensive line, where it's a no-brainer, you take them because barring injury, that guy's going to be there a decade, right? Will Campbell could be, but the question on Will Campbell is tackle or guard, and I just don't know if at 4 it's worth doing that. Membu's a guy that I know his draft stock has risen, and he could maybe go at 4 there. He's a true tackle. But it's hey, you plug in the tape. He's a really good player, but Campbell looks a little more dynamic. So they both have questions. In other words, there's no Joe Alt, who we saw go to the Chargers. There's no guy like that in this draft where it's Avi, take that dude, plug him in. He's going to be there for a decade. So just to recap here for our top 5 on this list. Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter, it sounds like we're in lockstep. Both game changers.
Yeah.
If they're there for either one, you got to take them. I don't think either one of us think they'll be there. Number 3, Will Campbell. 4, Membu. Look, I like both. Sounds like you do too. I just think it might be a little too rich at 4. You could trade back and maybe get one. Ashton Genty at 5, I love. You question the fit, so we'll table that. 6 through 10. I liked all these. Tyler Warren at 6. Ted McMillan at 7. Mason Graham at 8. Jalen Walker, who's rising up the draft charts as well, at 9. And then Kelvin Banks, another offensive tackle, at 10. Let's start with Ty Warren.
Please.
I am a huge fan of his.
Same.
I think he's going to be a stud in the NFL.
Same.
But I still feel like at number 4, I don't love it. If you tell me you could trade back with, I'm looking at some of the candidates. I brought them up earlier. A Saints at 9. Maybe Dolphins probably won't do business with you. Maybe a Cowboys at 12. I think you would have to get ahead of the Colts at 14. Because if he's there at 14, the Colts would be foolish to not take him. And that's around the range we think he could go. Honestly, maybe even the Niners at 11. If you could kind of move around back into the top 10 case or right after, 10, 11, 12 range, I think Tyler Warren is actually a very realistic goal for the Patriots if they were to trade back. Mm-hmm. And I think it makes a lot of sense. Now, it's not a number 1 wide receiver. It's not revamping the run game and building it around a playmaker like Ashton Genty, like I pitched. It's just a pass catcher. Like he's a tight end. I get it. But he is someone that can make this offense more dynamic.
Yep.
And it is technically it's a weapon for Drake May.
Exactly. And I've said it before on Boston Has Entered the Chat, depending on how this team continues to mold out. Sometimes when you've got that young sophomore quarterback who's still learning and developing his game, now he's going to be learning and developing in a new scheme.
Yeah.
You need kind of that big body reliability as a playmaker. You talk about Genty being in the mix as a playmaker to relieve him as he is growing into his role. I always lean more towards the tight end in that category.
Yep.
And it just kind of feels poetic considering Patriots system. And yes, it's changing, but still having that dynamic tight end in the mix, having that dynamic tight end playmaker, it just kind of speaks to what I've seen in terms of New England football, for one. For two, he has been so clean when it comes to muscling out defenders and pushing for that extended play and making things happen. So now you're talking about a 6'5", 260-pound body out there for Drake May to make plays with. Yeah. And he can catch those bomb passes. He can even kind of reel in some of those like slightly off the accurate target moments. And so like that adds fun as well as realistic expectations and playmaking and all these other things that could go correlate with Drake May where he's at and what Warren can bring into it. We also know I'm a big fan of the tight end, but like I said, you can grab a dynamic running back in a different round, but you can make some moves, get your future picks, which we already know that I'm not like the biggest fan of, but you could do that for Tyler Warren. I would do it for Warren.
All right, now we both like Tyler Warren back into the top 10. It sounds like we agree there. Mm-hmm. Ted McMillan. Now this is a guy, we'll see if he's a number 1, but a lot of draft geniuses and so-called experts suggest that he is. We know he's a big body Benz at 6'5", and Lord knows the Patriots need that. I don't want any parts of a Ted McMillan at number 4 overall.
Right.
But if you were to move back, much like Tyler Warren, I do think a Ted McMillan would not be the worst gamble I've ever seen. It just depends where. At this point, I'm not willing. He'd have to be kind of back end of the top 10, much like Tyler Warren. And by the way, I think there would be a subset of this fan base, and I wonder where you weigh on this, who if Tyler Warren and Ted McMillan were available to you and you took a McMillan, there's going to be some of this fan base that, well, you should have taken Tyler Warren.
Right.
He was right there.
Right.
And maybe vice versa. I'm higher on Tyler Warren than I am McMillan. I just, some of McMillan's, it's not his fault. Let me defend him before I tear him down. Arizona was a mess at the quarterback position. He still put up numbers, to be fair.
Yeah.
But I watched him, and he never jumped out to me. Like, and a lot of the comps, George uses this a lot. He reminds him of Drake London. Cool, but I remember watching Drake London at USC. He was making plays. He got hurt a lot, but when he was healthy, he jumped out. You knew who Drake London was.
Yeah.
Ted McMillan, for his measurables, I know who he is. He runs a fast 40. He's tall. He's got the body. But when I watched and I didn't watch many Arizona games because they were putrid, but when I did, from betting on him, in case you know, it always goes back to gambling. He did not really jump out to me. I don't necessarily feel like he's a game changer. That's where I'm at with the Patriots, if you notice. All my themes offensively, outside of the offensive linemen, who can make plays? When you watch this football team play, Case, they need playmakers in the worst way. They have one at quarterback, but they don't have it anywhere else right now offensively. And I know Stephon Diggs, and he's coming off an ACL, okay? Like, I need
we
guys.
know where your feelings lie there.
I really do. I feel very strongly. You need guys surrounding this kid and Drake May who can make plays. I'm not saying Ted McMillan isn't one, but I didn't see enough of it at Arizona to make me feel comfortable with it. Do you?
Well, so what I will say is, considering Arizona's schedule, considering where, the program resulted at the end and stuff, I can understand where you're coming from. On the other flip of the coin, we're talking about a wide receiving group and room that's almost pretty loaded in the slot category.
Yes.
And where are we going to start expanding the field? So you're going to have to trust somebody to slot in, no pun intended, at the wideout position. We need a wideout, and that's where size becomes more attractive. Again, for a sophomore quarterback, developing his game, new system, all these factors in play. But if I was to choose between T-Mac and Warren, I'm going Warren, because I'm also not getting hung up on the playmaking ability, because Vrabel doesn't have that flashy plug-and-play mentality. He has the buy-in.
Right.
Can I see a development ability within you, within what I'm building here? And that's something that I appreciate, because you tend to see smaller names become bigger names with that kind of backing.
Sure.
Circling back to why I would choose Warren over T-Mac, though, it's just more so the versatility. When you're kind of in this weird growing pain category, I like versatile players, because you don't know what the ask is going to be of you. And with the system that is being spoken between Vrabel and McDaniels, you need people that are going to be, able to do a number of things. So having a tight end that has the build, that has the catching ability, that has the ability to muscle out defenders, well, it's also talking about the fact that, if he's got to come up strong in a block, in a particular moment, if he's got to help out with increasing that red zone percentage, I have a lot more trust in picking up Warren to add to the versatility and the rebuild of this team versus T-Mac.
Okay,
I think T-Mac is going to need something a little bit more simple, sturdy to guide him through his NFL career.
All right, so we both like Tyler Warren on the back end of the top 10. We don't dislike Ted McMillan, but it's depending where you get him. If he's sliding for whatever reason, and we're in the teens, and the Patriots traded back to 14, I'm just making up a number, and he's still there, then you and I like him a lot more.
Yeah, I'm not making many maneuvers for him, if any.
Yes. Okay, so we agree on him. Mason Graham, I'll put these two together. I had 8 and 9. Mason Graham and Jalen Walker, I like both. Now, Jalen Walker, it's sort of the trendy pick right now. This happens every draft. Someone starts shooting up the draft board. But I did see him play enough to like him, and Mason Graham as well. I think both of these guys can come in day one and make impacts on this defense. I don't have any issue with either one of those guys. Not at number 4. Again, this is a trade back scenario. But I also, low-key Case, I feel like you addressed the defense. In the offseason, you did address the defense. I need an offensive-heavy draft here. Offensive linemen and weaponry. Unless it's an Abdul Carter, I'm going to kind of be a little side-eye with taking another defensive guy. Would you?
Well, yeah, because for me, you've got, you've talked about playmakers. Carter's that guy who can come in. The system that he was previously in college is translatable to what he would be expected to do at the NFL level. So you're not, I don't want to say wasting time, because it's never a waste of time to develop, but you're not wasting time with the development of it. Now, also considering what Vrabel runs defensively, you're talking about more of a singular focus because of the way that he has his defensive players filling in gaps. So you don't have to get too crazy with drafting defensively, because it's more of a know and execute your role on the defensive side of the ball. And then considering the pieces that he worked with over at Tennessee, it wasn't anything crazy on the name slate roster wise, because again, it's the solo execution of your job for your gap coverage. So I don't really see I don't see defensively anyone jumping up in position. And I find it accommodable if it's not Carter.
Okay, so we agree on that then. So I'm going to put them in that bucket as well that we did with Ted McMillan. Mason Graham and Jalen Walker both, depending where you would be taking them. Again, if you're in the teens, these guys are dropping to you, and Vrabel and the crew says, listen, we wanted to go offense, but these guys are too damn good. They've slid to us at 14, 15, whatevs. We're going to go that route. I wouldn't have an issue with it. Doesn't sound like you would. Here's my last one I liked in the top 10. Kelvin Banks. Listen, this would just be a fine backup plan. If you don't end up with Carter or Hunter or Campbell or Membu, and you trade back, and all these big names that we're talking about, all these guys, Ashton Jenney, Tyler Warren, all these guys are flying off the board, and you took a Kelvin Banks and you acquired, Kasey, more draft capital later in this draft because you traded back and you got him, that to me is a well-executed backup plan. I would be more than happy with a Kelvin Banks who is not grading as high as a Campbell and a Membu, but certainly when you put on the tape is more than capable. He just needs to be coached up. He's a little more raw than those other two prospects, Case.
Yeah, I think I'd stray away from this one considering the moving pieces. Like you said, if you're getting considerables, if you're getting future guys, this is where I would want to take more of a risk in either that wide receiver or running back category, because they kind of already had a younger offensive lineman, couldn't stay healthy. Yep. How will it pan out? Too many question marks. So I don't need rough around the edges when it comes to my offensive line, and I don't want to risk it. So that's where I would be like, okay, if we're going to do rough around the edges, give me a running back, give me a wide receiver. Let's see how it plays out. We've got a couple of veterans that can also help with getting them acclimated and see where they can go. But I don't want to do or play with that when it comes to offensive line. So I wouldn't even, Banks wouldn't be on my card per se.
Okay, so those 10, the top 10 jumped out to me in the article. I went on, though. I have a couple sleepers. I don't know if you do. I'll give you mine quickly. At number 13, he has Luther Burden, who I love. And George keeps telling me, what do you want, another undersized slot receiver? Listen, this guy is that. There's no doubt. Like, I'm not going to deny Luther Burden isn't more of what you have, but I think he's a better version of it. And in the same vein that they talk about Stephon Diggs, right? He may not be a true number one wide receiver in his prime the way we've seen him in Buffalo in the past, but at the same time, he's better than anyone you have. Luther Burden, I feel the same way out of Missouri. I just think, I get he's undersized, but I think he's a better version of Pop Douglas, to be honest. I think he's a more dynamic playmaker, super versatile. You can move him all over the field. You can use him like a Deebo Samuel type of player. He could also return kicks for you. So I'm a big Luther Burden guy. At number 20, Donovan Ezeraku, someone we are more than familiar with on this show. He has come on here. He is friends to the program. Donovan Ezeraku from Boston College, Case. Undersized as a defensive end, but high motor, extremely intelligent, just a great guy. Bill O'Brien vouched for him. I think that's going to go a long way with this Patriots coaching staff. And Senior Bowl practice that week leading up to the Senior Bowl, he was absolutely destroying these top-notch offensive linemen. So I think that really raised his stock as well. And then my last one, number 28, Jaden Higgins. Just another wide receiver, big body bends, big physical guy, 6'4". You need that in the red zone. I love that for a late round pick for the Patriots. So those were my three sleepers. Do you have any, or do you want to weigh in on mine?
Wait, so before we pivot to me, if you had two prospects outside of Hunter and Carter to pick, who would you pitch?
Oh,
off of this list, like what do you like prospect
in totality? Mm-hmm. So perfect world, Hunter and Carter are gone. I'm staying at 4, or I can move around, whatever I want to do.
Whatever you want to do.
Perfect scenario.
Is your oyster.
Perfect scenario draft night. Hunter and Carter are gone. Well, I mean, honestly, it would be between two. One guy you like, one guy you don't. I would probably go with the Saints, which they pick at 9, and I would take either Tyler Warren or Ashton Jenney. And it just depends schematically what you want to do. If you want this thing to revolve around Drake May and he's the alpha and the omega of your offense, and you get Tyler Warren. If you're like me and you're saying we want to get physical like our defense is, and we want to take on the identity of our head coach and be a bloody nose for every team we play, I would take Jenney and I would revamp the offensive line. I would get younger and faster, and I would take maulers on the offensive line, and I would run Ashton Jeanty into the ground. Even if I kept Ramondre Stevenson, even if I kept Antonio Gibson, and it's running back by committee, it would be Ashton Jeanty into the ground, and then those other guys would be complementary pieces. That's what I would do.
Okay.
To that, you say what?
To that, I say I bypass Jeanty.
I know it.
I offer up Henderson from Ohio State.
Okay.
Or RJ Harvey from UCF.
All right.
Again, I'm looking at more of that 80-20 downhill running back opportunity. If you want to run somebody into the ground,
there you go.
That's how you do it.
I like Hampton and UNC as well. He's another really good one as well. All right. Well, listen, we are seeing a ton of wild mock drafts this time of year. In 30 seconds, we'll give you the latest one. But first, stream the entire Red Sox season with a NESN 360 annual plan. It's available at an all-new reduced price of just $20 a month, paid annually. And for a limited time, you get 4 free tickets to Fenway with your purchase. Visit NESN360.com to sign up today. All right, Case, mock draft time. Mark Daniels of MassLive.com. We could just call his mock draft wild. Now,
all caps.
Yeah, his selection at number 4 is interesting. It's interesting. He took Jalen Walker from Georgia. So we talked about this in the first seg of how this Jalen Walker, I mean, his stock, I think he feels like the trendy pick, which happens before every single draft. One guy gets hot, rises up the ranks. I think it's Jalen Walker's time right now. At number 4, boy, does that feel rich. So Mark Daniels has Jalen Walker from Georgia with the number 4 overall pick at number 38. He has Ariante Ursary from Minnesota, who we do like. Number 77 overall, he has Kyle Williams from Washington State, the wide receiver. And then you'll know this name, Case, number 106, Cam Scatabo from Arizona State, the running back, who I do like as well. I don't know. I mean, look, Jalen Walker at 4, it would feel to me like they reached a little at 4. Not that I don't like the player, because I do, but if they trade back to like 11 and they take him, I would dig it. 4 would feel like maybe the Patriots were prisoners of the moment, and this guy got hot, and they sort of reached for him. Would you agree with that, or do you like the player at 4?
It did feel like a little bit of a reach.
Feels like a reach.
I feel like if we're sticking with the playmaking category, the totality of like his ability to not miss tackles, his key ability to make timely tackles, like, yeah, that's very appealing and attractive. But again, it's not like the desperacy on defense is still that heavy heading into the draft at this point.
I agree.
Doesn't put it as a priority to me for him to jump all the way up to 4, considering, like, come on, realistically, the offensive line has to be a point of purpose, because you're not going to get anywhere if you've got a quarterback dancing behind a fractured offensive line. Plays are not going to connect and be made, and if you can't put points on the board, it doesn't matter what your defense is doing. Yeah. Because at some point, you're going to have to be able to surpass point-wise. So that's where I just think, like, I don't know how he jumped all the way up to 4.
I agree. I mean, you and
I just... considerable.
Facts. You and I just had this conversation even about hockey of, like, you got to get younger and faster in these leagues now, and that's across the board, okay? And I feel the same way for the Patriots. Like, they have addressed defense. Not to say you shouldn't draft some defensive players and you don't have more holes to fill. Yeah. But, yeah, I agree. To take someone at 4 who just kind of got hot now, not saying he's not a good player. I love him. But I don't want him at 4.
That early spot is where you're shouldering a team on a player. You know what I mean? Like, I don't see the build around being around that guy in particular. So, I know if we miss out on a Carter or Hunter and like other generational talents or like bigger names, then that's one thing. But like, I still don't see the purpose being like building around him. Whereas, like, you can build around offensive line, you can build around a running back, you can build around a wide receiver. It's just not a top priority for me.
Well, Mark Daniels actually said this is why he took him, because Travis Hunter and Abdul Carter would be gone. He says, do you draft for need or best available? In this mock draft, we do both. This exercise features us drafting a player in the first round who just might be the best player on the board due to Travis Hunter and Abdul Carter likely being gone. So that's a key phrase there, Case. Although the Patriots signed several defensive veteran free agents, they could still add another prospect to that side of the ball. If that happens, the Patriots must get their picks right after the first round. Here we focus on players well connected to the Patriots in this pre-draft process. And again, the names we've all talked about: Jalen Walker, Ariante Ursary, Kyle Williams, Cam Scatterbo. Now, you know I am absolutely obsessed with the running backs in this draft. And we've talked about a myriad of names, but Cam Scatterbo is one we haven't brought up. He was so love this kid. Watch. From the college football playoff, I fell in love with him. I mean, he feels like, now, he doesn't feel like he's going to have a long NFL career because of the style in which he plays, which is smash mouth. I'm going right at you. But that mentality, oh, my God, for however many years you get it, 4 or 5, whatever the shelf life is for that type of sort of power running back, that's who I want. The guy can block. He runs angry and violently. Seems like a team guy, locker room guy. Everyone loves him. I would love that, especially a 106 overall Case.
Yeah, so what I do really like about this is a placement where he falls in line of the pickup, but then you said it, the blocking capabilities.
Yes.
When you're in certain modes, and I know I kind of feel like a broken record at this point, depending on what your plug and play method may be, having a versatile player is very helpful. Also, by quote, McDaniels loves versatile running backs because there's different ways that he likes to use them. He has a pretty, let's say, I don't want to say complicated playbook, but gets very intricate with his plays, and Scatterbo is the kind of player that can go along with that and make it count. So I do like that as an attractive piece to where you can pick him up, how he fits in, how he can kind of play off of what McDaniels likes to do when he gets really creative in certain moments. And that's something else that the Patriots were missing, creativity.
Yes.
So
Preach.
him along with a handful of other players in this draft, they can really illuminate that creative option with McDaniels' playbook, and Vrabel letting him have free reign of how that's going to operate. So yeah, he was fun to watch. I mean, I don't think I've watched Arizona State much.
Yeah.
Until him. I've watched their hockey program, but not much football until I was seeing Scatterbo just kind of like running like he was angry at the world.
No doubt. I love that running style, too. I hope he does it here in New England. By the way, number 38, so the second-round pick, Ariante Ursary from Minnesota. That would be fantastic. And that's a name that, you know, look, I hate talking offensive linemen, Case. Let me be clear.
Is that what it is?
There's nothing more boring than talking offensive linemen to me. Like, I'm one of those people where I'm just like, would you just go to the local market basket and get a big guy who can move his feet, and you could teach him offensive line. But at 6'6", 330, I mean, you got to be kidding me. We have had PJ Fleck here on Foxborough Rush talking about this kid and how good he is. Getting him would be fantastic. I'm all for that. Any of these tackles, I don't give a damn. Banks, I told you I like. Campbell, although I have questions, is he a tackle? Is he a guard? We'll see. But I'm not going to lose sleep if they draft him. I get it. Ursary, I mean, any of these guys, I am all for. Membu, you name it. But they need somebody. Hell, Case, they need 2 or 3 of them, if we're being honest.
Yeah, I like it because you're talking about, you know, a top 10 player or top 10 player within, you know, his position and caliber and whatnot. But also just like where his refinement can come in, it doesn't feel like something that's going to take a extensive amount of time. And while you're not seeing any rush to what Vrabel and company are piecing together, that's also what I like about him. I mean, I know that Minnesota has always been really keen on making sure their offensive linemen have a good, healthy, rapid snap on them.
Yes.
Sometimes it's kind of like altered their footwork and stuff.
Yep.
And yeah, I used to work with a couple people that were nerd about the trenches, but you're talking about a development piece that can come in handy for you quicker and sooner rather than later. So yeah, I think that it sticks within theme of him being a top 10 guy in his position and being able to help out, and he's been a pillar when it comes to Minnesota.
If you enjoy conspiracy theories, get your tinfoil hat out now, because I'm going to give you a conspiracy theory when we come back in 30 seconds. But first, if you're enjoying the show, you can catch new episodes of Foxborough Rush every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. You can hear from NFL draft experts like Matt Miller, and all about the latest news surrounding the Patriots as we work through the offseason. It's available on Amazon, Apple, Spotify, Twitch, YouTube, and wherever else you get your podcast. All right, Case.
The drama.
Tinfoil hat time. Derek Carr for the Saints could miss a significant chunk of next season with a shoulder injury that he may need surgery on. Here's a Diana Rossini tweet. Derek Carr's shoulder development did not come as a surprise to the Saints. Surgery is being contemplated as both sides analyze next steps for the player and the franchise. Listen to this, Case. Carr carries a $20 million cap hit this season. Now, let me give you my conspiracy theory first before we talk about this show going on with the Saints.
Hat on.
My gut says the Saints knew this was going to be a mess, as Rossini reported. I believe they're going to start Spencer Rattler. I believe that they didn't want Kellen Moore as a head coach, but no one wanted the gig. So I think they are punting on this season. I do believe the Saints are tanking, but not for tank's sakes. No, they are tanking for a very specific reason. Case, do you remember way back in yesteryear when a quarterback played for the Saints with the last name Manning back in the day? I am here to tell you that I believe the Saints will tank this season and bring a Manning back to Nolans, where it all started for that family. I believe Arch Manning will be the number 1 pick next season for the New Orleans Saints. What do you think to my conspiracy theory before we unpack what's going on with them?
I hate conspiracy theories.
But you loved mine?
They do in my mental. Me and conspiracy theories are not friends.
Okay.
When it tries to pop up on my TikTok, I shut down all operations.
But
I just think that, this could be some hatred of, Tampa Bay versus New Orleans, but, I just don't think the Saints have it in them to, go along with a tanking for next year. It's already bad enough no coach wanted to go there.
Yeah.
It's already bad enough that when they had their momentous moments because defense was keeping them in games and they were loading up on 40 points, they really were feeling themselves for 3 weeks in the NFL season.
Right.
I just don't think that they have the humility to be we're going to just completely ish down the bed on this one and go into a hard rebuild.
Okay.
So there's that. Then the other reason why I'm not probably going to join in on the aluminum helmet situation here is because they, being the Saints, knew that they were ready to move on from Carr week 6 or 7, maybe week 8 tops. But the front office had already come together with their whiskey and made a decision on that. So I want to go along with the fact that they already have a plan in motion. So the cap situation, not ideal. But as for bringing in somebody else, we've seen them load up on quarterbacks and it never makes sense. We've seen the Saints go through a number of seasons so senseless. So I think that they were already prepared to move on from Carr. This kind of almost gives them a we did it without doing it moment because he's injured. So they are not disrespecting the player. They're not creating more drama around the scenario. But they can get a little bit younger. They can find somebody. They really just need a steady Eddie in the pocket so that they can utilize who they have. Because they've tried to come in with these quarterbacks to have these bomber plays and these chunk downfield. And I know Olave is usually that guy that makes these catches and stuff like that. But you're not going to build a sustainable system around that method. So they kind of have some wiggle room here to get a little bit more sustainable, a little bit more realistic, and they could do it in a cheaper form and fashion now that Carr is removed from the situation with injury.
Okay. I mean, listen, you laid it out pretty nicely. Honestly, I think the Saints are stuck with that contract.
Don't hate the Manning situation, though. Yes. I don't hate that.
See, you don't hate it.
Yeah, I love a good storyline. Are you kidding?
I think the Saints are stuck with that contract, much like the Browns for different reasons with Deshaun Watson. But I think the Saints are stuck with all that money, and no one wants Derek Carr. He just hasn't worked out there. Now, here's a real question: do you think the Patriots, obviously, if Travis Hunter and Abdul Carter are off the board, this will help make the answer easier to answer. But do you think the Patriots should be open to trading with the Saints? Saints pick at 9, Pats at 4. Saints right now with this news, I mean, you have to think if they're not tanking for Arch, they have to be looking at a Shedeur Sanders or possibly a Jackson Dart. Do you believe the Patriots should make that deal with the Saints to move back to 9 and then gather whatever else draft capital you could get from New Orleans?
No.
No.
I don't want to be in bed with the Saints. And I think that they don't have much to offer. I think that because of the desperation that their situation stenches of, what are they going to offer the Patriots to make this a quality deal? Because I don't want future picks. We don't know what the future holds with everything going on. Like, there's just not enough players that I'm looking at in college. It's just like, 2026, 2027, you're really like jumping out at me, kid, and we can make the maneuvers. Not to mention is that the Patriots shouldn't want to really be in that position come 2 years, considering how they're going about building out their roster. Outside of all of that, the future picks and whatnot, I just think that the Saints are too desperate. They are in like one of the most crucial rebuild moments. I don't know what they can offer even within like a 3-year scope that wouldn't hurt or hinder them overall. And there's a number of quarterbacks they could reach for and actually do better with. If you look at the list of how many quarterbacks actually had a decent season this year, they can put somebody in their mix. It's just if they want to go there.
Yeah, listen, I couldn't disagree with you more in terms of I think it's a fantastic trade. Now, again, I want to preface it, and I keep saying this on repeat for a reason. Mm-hmm. Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter are off the board, okay? If one of them is there, Case, and these fools trade with the damn Saints back to 9, and you leave a Travis Hunter and you leave an Abdul Carter on the board.
Would never make sense.
I'm cussing everybody out, okay? But if both of those guys are gone, which we both sounds like things could be realistic, I don't have a problem with moving back to 9. You know why? All these, I'm looking at the list of names we talked about first seg. All these guys should still, in theory, be there outside of Hunter and Carter. Will Campbell could still be there. Membu could be there. Genty could be there. Ty Warren could be there. Ted McMillan. I mean, you have help at 9. It's not the end of the world if you move back to 9. So I actually do believe this is a move that the Patriots should make. And by the way, Case,
what's a good offer?
Well, I mean, that's the question.
That's where I'm hung up.
Are you moving back to 9 and getting an additional 4th round pick this year? I mean, you know, it depends. It depends on what the compensation is. But I tell you this, I think you're fleecing the Saints either way. You know why? I don't know if Jackson Dart or Shedeur gives you what you need for that team. That team's in a rebuild. Yeah. They just haven't admitted it. They should have pulled the plug on this when they lost Drew Brees and they lost Sean Payton.
Right.
Common sense says, let's rebuild the damn thing. They were in cap space hell at that time. Just rebuild it from the ground up. You could trade a Kamara. They didn't do any of that. So now they're kind of like, they're almost in purgatory a little bit because they're not bad enough. That's why I said they would need to tank to get an Arch Manning. But then again, they're not good enough to compete against your Bucks in the South. So I look at them. I'll be honest. If I'm a Saints fan, I would probably want to take my chances with Shedeur Sanders. Here's why, Case. Mm-hmm. This is a guy now, and I get it's college, but he's been at 2 programs that needed to be rebuilt. And we're talking about a rebuild. Right. Jackson State was a mess when Prime got there. And Prime and Shedeur turned them around and made them relevant. Colorado was worse, and they made them relevant. And ratings and all that, and had them competing for bowl games and even the college football playoff, which they didn't make, but they turned it around. So this is a kid in Shedeur who has now rebuilt 2 programs on the college side. Walking into my building, he knows how that looks. He's had pressure and the spotlight his whole life. He's Deion Sanders' son, and he plays the most, pressure-ridden position in all of sports, in the quarterback position. So this is a guy who can deal with the spotlight well. This is a guy who's rebuilt not 1 but 2 programs on the college end of things. And you're playing in a dome, so you don't have to worry about the elements. Because everyone says, well, his arm's piddly. Well, it doesn't matter if you're not dealing with crosswinds and snow and sleet. If he's playing in a dome, I think. And by the way, Case, they have weapons there in New Orleans. I think if I'm a Saints fan, although I would get behind the tank for Arch, if that's not the case, and you're talking about trading up to 4, if you're the Saints, I would feel comfortable with Shedeur Sanders. Would you as a Saints fan?
Oh, Me as a Saints fan, that's a rude question.
I know that's hard for you.
Right. Thank you. As a Saints supporter, I wouldn't be against it. I mean, you make a great case in terms of like his arm and the restraints that he wouldn't have to be working against playing in the north or outside for 1 for 2. Part of where I'm veering on the jumping around and having any discussion with the Patriots for that 4 slot is when you're looking at teams that his name has been associated with most. The 2 teams ahead of the Patriots being the Browns and the Giants, but also let's consider the other quarterbacks ahead of him that are considered a higher caliber and grab. And then remove that off the table. You're talking about the Saints that have a need at 9. You're talking about the Raiders ahead of them. Don't really see if they're going to jump in for a QB like Sanders for their system. And then the Steelers at 21. So they already have a decent negotiation bargain to let him settle into that 9 spot and him grab him. That's the other reason why I'm like, okay, well, what would be the grab for the Patriots? It needs to be a little sexier for me to even make a case to moving out of that 4 slot. But as a Saints supporter, I'm okay with this.
Okay.
Because you mentioned the ability to shoulder the responsibility of a rebuild and a team, but then also considering the amount of weapons that he had and, you know, what he had to do with Colorado, then you're looking at almost like similarities in the offense and what they have. And what did I say earlier when we were first talking about the Saints? They need to simplify everything.
Yes.
So I'm not privy to what their offensive line situation is and ensuring that he can do like the whole pocket passer thing with the arm strength that he has or lacks thereof. But outside of that, the simplification of it, I think that Sanders can be fine.
All right, fair enough. Case, coming up, we have some drum because a Patriots ex can't keep the Patriots name out of his damn mouth.
Oh.
But first, if you're enjoying the show, be sure to check out Nesson's Daily Sports Podcast. Boston has entered the chat. We talk about all the trending sports news in Boston and around the country. It's available on Amazon, Apple, Spotify, Twitch, YouTube, and wherever else you get your podcast. All right, let's get to this because this is juicy. Bill Belichick's book has begun to leak. So it's set to release early next month, Case. I don't know if you're getting it or not. I have no interest.
Likely not.
But in the book, Belichick indirectly mentions Robert Kraft once in the entire book. Indirectly, okay? He's taking shots. Here it is. Bill Belichick's only indirect mention of Robert Kraft in this book. Someone came up with the phrase, the Patriot way. I think they made some money off of it. Good for them. Here's something you should know. The Patriot way does not exist. I mean, come on.
What is that?
It's just too much. Like, it's just too much. Also, Belichick has a chapter dedicated to the, quote, mistakes he made during his time in the NFL. 2 of the mistakes that stand out, Case. Listen to this. Allowing Tom Brady to walk via free agency.
That was...
I mean, can I cuss on this program? Not drafting Lamar Jackson at number 31 in the draft.
Dumb.
Take it, Sony Michel. Can I cuss in this program? I mean, honestly, all this stuff. Well, like, why are we doing it? You know what I don't really appreciate? Like, I know all of us talk about evolving and growth and change.
I love those words.
Bill didn't do any of that when he was here, right?
Right.
Now it's over. And you go to UNC, you got a young thing on your arm. Like, now he's singing like a bird. He never talked this whole time. Now he's writing books. He's putting everybody business in the street.
You know why?
What's going on?
He caught himself a Hudson. No, I'm kidding.
Is that what did it, Kate?
That's exactly what did it. Honestly, I don't know because ask any of my ex-boyfriends. I don't talk about them. Didn't talk about them right after. Don't talk about them now.
Good for you.
So like talking about the ex, spilling the goods.
Like what?
It's not the content of my character. So why he's in this mode? But you know what? Everybody's into branding themselves. Everybody's into the tell-alls, and everybody can write a book these days. And so I think that it's just like
I just hate it.
Stella. What's a man version of the name Stella?
I just hate it.
Anyway, Belichick Stella got his groove back, and that's what he's doing.
Stella got his groove back. This is just Bill, man. Come on, dog. Like you're not even in the NFL anymore.
Even the non-mention mention,
right.
Like I have to ask again, like what is that? What was the purpose of even like pinching that in there?
You know what it is. Let's call it what it is. He's bitter. He's bitter. He didn't like the way it ended.
He's hurt.
He's hurt. Yeah. He didn't like the way it ended. You know, you slander him in that, what was it, Apple TV or what? I don't even know, Netflix, whatever it was. No, the Dynasty doc that they did. They slandered Belichick. Then the roast, they kind of kissed and made up and took shots together. But
weird, awkward.
Yeah, and it was also a group setting, right? So it's like, okay, of course you're going to play nice.
It was like the weird divorce. Like they played nice for Tom.
He's hurt. You said it. Yeah. Bill's hurt. And clearly he's not over it. I don't think he'll ever get over it. But I just don't like the extreme pendulum swing. Like, you don't talk for 20 years. You just literally grunt when asked questions, and you're so grumpy. And then you get a divorce. Grunt. You go to college.
You catch a huddy.
You get a huddy. And now it's like you're just singing like a bird. Like, it's just too much. It's not really who you are, Bill. It's like out of character, Case. Does that make sense? I don't know.
In an extreme way.
Yes.
Like, I liked the sleeveless grunt.
Yes.
You know what I mean? You made us love you, and now you're changing like on a hard pivot. Exactly.
That was authentic of who Bill was.
Yep.
I don't like the new Bill, Case. That's where I'm at with this.
I agree. I have nothing to add to that besides the fact of, like, we're not going to see vintage Bill anytime soon or ever again.
Everything he's doing reeks of midlife crisis to me. Like, what's next? A Harley? Some tats? Like, I can't do it, Bill.
We're going to see him popping donuts on a Ducati. Opening week of college. I'm putting it out there now. Ducati Bill. Let's go.
I'm not ready for it. Hey, thanks for being ready for us here on Foxborough Rush. For Travis, Thomas, and Kasey Hudson. Till next time, peace.